Tonight, the plan to keep the downtown moving as construction moves ahead on several key streets.
Even now, it's better to walk on Queen Street than it is to take the streetcar.
Many in the Core have their doubts already, but we'll lay out the city's plan to clear obstacles. Parking and street festivals will be among the first to be sidelined to help ease construction congestion.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
Doug Ford shows his cards on what's likely to be added to Ontario Place, why the Science Centre may be relocating as part of the ongoing debate to refurbish the hot downtown property.
I'm just having a great time today. I'm missing work. Don't tell anybody.
And was your office a little quiet today? Toronto basks under a second-day scorcher. Are we in for a hat trick of heat records? We are live tonight along Queen Street. Even at this late hour, you can see lots of people getting around the city, many of them enjoying this unseasonable warmth. And Colette will have all our weather details in just a minute. But this intersection is in the spotlight tonight for more than just heat. In about 2 weeks, Queen Street from Bay to Victoria will be closed to all traffic for several years. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. It is an unprecedented closure in the downtown expected to cause unprecedented congestion. And it's not just Queen Street that will see closures as the province moves ahead with construction of the Ontario Line subway. The city says it is well aware it'll be a challenging few years, and today officials in Toronto laid out a plan to tackle it. Ali Chiasson now with how the city's going to deal with its downtown dilemma.
There is no transit gain without some transit construction pain.
Some hard truths from the Deputy Mayor and the GM of Toronto Transportation Services.
We know we have a lot of construction ahead. We're talking today about the beginning of the Ontario Line major construction and the traffic detours and the congestion that is likely an outcome of that.
That's right. The Ontario Line is really happening. Construction begins on one of the major stations at Queen and Bay starting May 1st. At the same time, to help mitigate traffic, the city will create what they call priority travel routes to get around the construction.
That the routes will be kept clear of as many lane restrictions as possible. That includes limiting other construction, projects on these routes to only emergency repairs, temporarily adjusting or removing on-street parking, suspending or canceling permits, and deferring requested road closures for things like street events.
Basically, they're clearing the way for hopefully smooth travels along parallel streets. Take Dundas, for example. The stretch between Bathurst and Jarvis will be construction-free without street parking, and traffic lights will be synced. And depending on how congested things get, the city could dedicate other parallel streets to help navigate that intersection you're probably already dreading.
Even now, it's better to walk on Queen Street than it is to take the streetcar. So I have a feeling this is just going to further add to that. We'll hope for the best, and as you can see, I'm walking right now, so I think I'll probably stick with that for the next little while.
Yeah, make that approximately 4.5 years for the estimated completion date.
I mean, taking it with a grain of salt, I think that's probably on the low end of what will actually end up happening. If the Eglinton LRT is an example, it's probably going to be longer than that, but on the flip side of the coin, I understand it. They're building a subway. It's a subway, again, that's long overdue, that folks in Toronto need. So again, there's goods and bads to it.
So while all of the heavy-duty construction work happens below our feet, pedestrians will still have access to this corridor of Queen Street because Metrolinx will be building pedestrian paths and pedestrian bridges in time for May 1st. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
As if the downtown wasn't busy enough, tonight the Premier is hinting a major tourist attraction could be moving to the downtown as well. Doug Ford says bringing the Ontario Science Centre to Ontario Place down by the water would be fabulous, he said. While at least one mayoral candidate says it's the right move, as Lorenda Redekop shows us, critics worry it just won't fit.
At a separate announcement in Kitchener today, the Premier was asked about the plans for Ontario Place and if his government wants to move the Science Centre there.
I personally think it's a great idea. But if I told you now, my Minister of Infrastructure would shoot me on the spot. So can you stay tuned till next week? But I think it's a fabulous idea, and there's a tremendous opportunity.
He was then asked about plans for the current Science Centre location near Don Mills and Eglinton.
That's where the Ontario line's going to go to as well. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity to create some attainable homes and affordable and nonprofit homes in that region if we decide to go down that road.
The Science Centre at Ontario Place has been talked about before, mentioned in a development application for the property, but it appears to be a smaller satellite site on one story.
The Science Centre has a fairly large footprint, and I don't see that same large footprint here. I'm trying to imagine how the large amount of space the Science Centre has could be contained in this area.
A spa is part of the current vision for Ontario Place. The spa company, Thermae Canada, says news about the Science Centre does not affect that, and that it's been working closely with the Ontario government.
What we heard as
mayoral candidate Anna Bailau recently suggested moving the entire Science Centre to Ontario Place, and was happy to hear the Premier talking about affordable housing. But she doesn't agree with the high cost of the planned underground parking for the spa site.
2,000 spaces to subsidize and to support a private spa at the tune of $500 million. It is not okay. It is not what Torontonians need. Torontonians need housing. Torontonians need services.
The Infrastructure Minister's office says including the Science Centre at Ontario Place has been in the works since 2019, with the updated vision for the site coming soon. This all comes as public consultations on Ontario Place begin this weekend. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
We got a dramatic update from fire officials today about the number of homes destroyed in that massive blaze that ripped through a Vaughan construction site yesterday.
It was determined that we had 71 units involved, 31 single detached homes, 23 detached or townhomes, and then a number of units that they called them a fire break. It was just simply a basement with a floor deck on top.
The Ontario Fire Marshal is still investigating what caused the fire to break out, but crews say yesterday's strong winds were a factor in how quickly the flames spread. The developer of the site has been on scene trying to determine the extent of the damage, but so far they haven't been able to put a dollar figure on all of that.
The Women's World Championship is heating up as Canada tries to secure its third straight gold medal. I'm Dale Manuktuk, and coming up, I'll tell you how it's not the only thing on fire as the weather and sports season bring big bucks to Brampton.
All right, so summer-style heat in Brampton and certainly across the region. Colette, the patios are bumping tonight. Lots of people enjoying this record-breaking heat.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. I mean, we did it again today, another record high at Pearson, and lots of records, in fact, not just there. And, you know, so that's 2 days in a row. Tomorrow, the temperature's not going to be as warm, but it's still going to be pretty warm, and the record is a little bit lower. So probably we'll have a third day in a row that we're looking at. Daytime highs, just looking across the province. I mean, Ottawa up to 30 degrees as well. Kingston, keeping in mind that reporting station very close to the lake there. So that does have an impact, too, on the temperature. You get away from the lake, and it was warmer inland. That 29 in Toronto showing up, 27s through Hamilton, St. Catharines, and London, and towards Windsor. And how about you, Sarnia? 28 degrees there as well. So mostly clear conditions. In fact, the principal change would be the direction of the winds, that instead of as much of a southwest, it's a slightly more southeasterly flow as we get into tomorrow. And that's why we may see that temperature down just that tiny bit. Overnight tonight, 13 degrees. Tomorrow afternoon, 26. And again, a lot of sunshine there, Chris. So another high UV index.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Colette.
Nurse now, she loads far down. Sarah Nurse scores in overtime.
By the skin of its teeth, Canada is into the semifinals at the Women's World Hockey Championship. Sarah Nurse tonight with the thrilling overtime goal in the quarterfinals against Sweden, and the win guaranteeing Canada 2 more games in the championship, further fueling the push for thousands of people to check out Brampton while there for the tournament. Dale Manuktuk now on how the city's big bet is paying off.
A big win for Canada is a big win for Brampton.
Go Canada!
Fans from all over the GTA coming to the CAA Centre, some spending big money on multiple games.
My husband bought the tickets. I mean, we actually...
And he's not here today.
Yeah, I mean, thousands of dollars probably.
The city invested $300,000 to host the Women's World Hockey Championships.
our initial estimates are over $5 million in economic impact for the city in terms of those that come to the city and are shopping local. But this is being televised nationally, so I think there's a broader exposure for the city.
While the final numbers won't be in for a while, it seems to be paying off.
The ticket packages alone were like $530, and that's one ticket per game. So that's 2 ticket packages, and then food in the arena is probably $20, $30 a day, but then going out to get food as well. So quite a lot of money.
We were all here for the Czechia game on Good Friday, and we had 55 of us at Boston Pizza. We dumped whatever, like, $1,000 there or something like that.
But watching the game live isn't the only place to be. The warm temperatures making for a relaxing time for outdoor viewing.
Look at the weather. It's beautiful. It's 30 degrees. World Championship.
Combine that weather with the Jays season off to the races, Leafs playoffs around the corner, and sports bars are really seeing a difference, even with the Raptors' unfortunate exit from postseason play.
Probably adds at least 50% right now, and we definitely believe once the Blue Jays get in full bloom with their season, it's going to get better. We've got the Leafs playoffs coming up. That always brings great hype to our place.
Oh, Canada, we stand on guard.
As for the Women's World Championships, Brampton has already told Hockey Canada they'd like to host the tournament again. Dale Manuktuk, CBC News, Brampton.
No kidding. All right, turning to Toronto's mayoral race now, and former police chief Mark Saunders unveiling his plan for TTC safety. If elected mayor, Saunders says he'd increase the number of special constables across the system.
Whether it's your children going to school, or you going to work or going to a doctor's appointment, working on a bus or streetcar as a driver, you have the right to feel safe on TTC property.
Saunders says this would result in a total of 200 special constables, a 25% boost from what we have now. They would be placed in stations where he says they are the most needed. He also pledges to prevent loitering on transit by enforcing existing bylaws and add a minimum lighting standard at streetcar and bus stops at night. Meanwhile, Councillor Josh Matlow announced a plan to bring in a tenant support program if he's elected mayor.
This is going to be the most ambitious tenant protection program in our city's history.
Matlow says he will crack down on bad landlords. He'll also create a fraud squad to go after illegal renovictions. Another plank in the plan is to add $50 million to the city's multi-unit residential acquisition program. Matlow says the money will support the purchase of affordable apartment buildings under threat so they can be run by nonprofits or co-ops. He also plans to establish rent control in all units that receive any city funding. And the race for the city's top job is a little more crowded tonight. Anthony Peruzza has added his name to the list of candidates running for mayor. Peruzza says he will stop any increases to property taxes, TTC fares, or user fees if he wins. He points out that he's the only city councillor running for mayor who voted against raising property taxes this year. Peruzza has represented Ward 7, Humber River, Black Creek for nearly 17 years. And of course, the mayoral by-election takes place on June 26th.
We are all standing on the shoulders of the people that came before us, and so we can't turn our back on them.
Coming up, a record-breaking donation means more seniors will have access to affordable housing, with shovels set to break ground this year. Plus, we're back with a bit of sad news from the zoo, and staff at the Toronto Zoo are mourning the death of a longtime resident tonight. Samson the grizzly bear died on Monday, and he was 25 years old and had lived at the zoo since 1998. He came here from Alaska at 6 months old after he was found wandering around malnourished and with no mother in sight. Despite weighing over 1,000 pounds, the zoo describes Samson as gentle as well as highly intelligent. The zoo says Samson woke up from hibernation this year with progressive arthritis in his hips and knees, and they decided to euthanize him so he wouldn't suffer. Now to the largest donation in a local nonprofit's history that's set to change the lives of dozens of seniors. The Wood Green Foundation says the multi-million-dollar donation will support a new seniors housing development in Riverdale. Talia Ricci explains the unique addition.
This building at Danforth and Bowden is about to be transformed.
We're going to be creating 50 affordable seniors housing in this site, and it's just a great lift for the community and also for affordable housing.
The affordable apartment development for underserved seniors will be at 60 Bowden Street. It will also include health and wellness supports on site for the people living there. The Sprott Foundation donated $4 million to the project.
We are all standing on the shoulders of the people that came before us, and so we can't turn our back on them. It's extremely important that we take care of them and make sure that their final years of life are filled with dignity and as much health as possible.
The development is also receiving $19.8 million of federal funding. It will be a mass timber structure, which is a wood-based building material.
This is part of the Rapid Housing Initiative, and as part of the Rapid Housing Initiative from the federal government, they have to be built within a year of the funding agreement being signed. I hope that people come to see this model and see what else we can do.
According to City of Toronto stats, nearly half of those on a waitlist for community housing are seniors. This project is specifically designed to enhance seniors' quality of life.
The link between housing and health is huge. People who lack equitable access to safe, high-quality housing have poor health outcomes, and this announcement is going to make huge impacts, very positive impacts in our community for many years to come. I hope that we see more announcements like it in the future.
Woodgreen is launching the fundraising phase of its Unmet Needs campaign to raise $25 million in 3 years to address Toronto's social service gaps.
There's so many unmet needs across our city. People are unhoused, unemployed, unsupported.
The new development will have space for the Danforth Baptist Church, which is also at this site, and it will continue serving the surrounding neighborhood through an established commercial kitchen and community food bank. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
13 degrees and clear skies tonight as we look live at the city's beautiful skyline. And Colette, it was another hot day, busting records and norms all over the place.
Yeah, Chris, we can look at this in so many different ways. That earlier I was mentioning, tomorrow would be the third day in a row that we'd be talking about a record daytime high. But keeping in mind, we're setting records for how warm our lows are as well. When we're talking about lows of 12 to 13 degrees, that's unusually warm for April. And then we can look at, well, what about just the number of days where we're talking about being at even 20 degrees or higher? Well, then that's an even longer string. Tomorrow would be number 5, and we're going to add to that. Stick around, 5-day forecast will show you how many more days. We do have another day with a high UV index, lots of sunshine coming back at us again. And we do, of course, we know it will end. It's a matter of when, and that is getting at least to some precipitation at the end of the weekend, probably later on Sunday, which would be nice, but then also seeing that cool down coming into Monday. So what's been happening is this, very, very broad ridge of high pressure has been protecting us in our skies and keeping the clearer conditions. As it begins to not so much erode, but slide off towards the east, we have a couple of systems. One that's been giving some of that heavy rain there for parts of Florida and the flooding they've seen. Another one that's kind of taking shape and will be moving in from the west. We're starting to get squeezed a little bit by the time we get into Saturday, but essentially all we get at first is a bit of extra cloud cover in our skies. We see a change in the wind direction. That even begins tomorrow, more of a southeast to, by the time we get into Saturday, more easterly flow. That's going to bring the temperatures down a little further. So not much tomorrow. It's a teeny bit. They come down more as we head into the weekend. And then by the time we get into Sunday, this all sort of comes together. We likely will see that one to the south stay to the south of us, maybe just a glance. It's the one coming in from the west we'll be focusing more on, with some heavier rain and the risk of thunderstorms. So enjoy the clear night tonight. Nice sleeping weather. You can crack those windows open. 9 degrees, Chatham Kent, a little cooler there. Otherwise, double digits for those overnight lows. And for the Golden Horseshoe, here you go, 9 in Oshawa. Otherwise, we've got a few, 13s on the board there, 12 to 13 for that low. Friday, 26. Yes, that would be a new record. And then that gradual cool down with some heavy rain, even some thunderstorms possible later on Sunday and lingering in with that cooler air into Monday.
All right. Thanks, Colette. And we'll be right back. Finally, tonight, the City of Toronto conducting a prescribed burn in High Park today to encourage growth in the ecosystem. The method goes back to before colonization, Indigenous people using burns to help keep the land clean. Here's a look at today's ceremony.
In High Park, we have a forest ecosystem. It's called the Black Oak Savanna, and this ecosystem benefits from prescribed burns. The burn creates ideal conditions for the species that are native to that ecosystem to grow, like to germinate and to grow.
We're dealing with a little higher temperatures than we typically do for this time of year. The site itself, the characteristics, it's greened up a lot faster than it did last year. So we're about 2 weeks ahead. But that's going to help offset the temperatures for today. Winds are restricted on site just due to the area, so we're not dealing with true 10-meter airport winds. So everything's going to go just as planned.
It's a management tool that's been used by Indigenous people for hundreds of years, and it's a silvicultural tool that's used by foresters. I've been working with the Indigenous community, the Indigenous Land Stewardship Circle, for the last year. And we've had several meetings with them on site to talk about the history of prescribed burning for Indigenous people. We've learned an awful lot from them about how they value the land and some of their practices. So it's been a great learning relationship, and it's one that we want to continue going forward.
Today is a most special occasion for our Indigenous population of Toronto. We have been in partnerships, negotiating partnerships with the City of Toronto to be included in some of the work and developing that relationship building so that they understand the Indigenous teachings of how we steward the lands and the respect and reciprocity that we give to our first relatives, the plants, the animals, the waters, and all of the medicines that are growing on these lands here.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Marivelle Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.